Hey everybody, I'm that girl Goddess, and I'm here to talk about. I'm going to do a series of people be careful of what you say. And this one is teach your children not to say anything to people. See, people better realize there's people in this world that have problems with children talking out of turn. And people will hurt your children and hate your children about it. They'll fall out with you. And the strange thing about it, children can say even things to their friends, their peers, and we may feel it is out of order. But the thing about children is children tend to fight for their friends in the end. See, you can separate them and say, don't go down there and play with them people. They're not going to be saying any and everything to you. Children will make up 10 minutes later and they have a cold and they won't say certain things to each other. And you as parents are getting there fighting over your children, and instead of teaching them how to let stuff go, talk to them and let them know how they was wrong and how it's out of order and move on, you hold grudges. You grow up and some people are full of so much hate, they will orchestrate your demise of your children. And sometimes you have to work things out in a peaceful manner and have tact. You have to be careful what you say to a child's parent or any other adult, as well as to a small child, because you don't know. Children admire certain adults and stuff, and you can say things that can affect them for the rest of their life. I'm just saying, teach your children to have tact and not blow any and everything out of their mouth because it comes to their mindset. I used to teach a series when I was ministering, a pastor of a church. I'm still a pastor, but I changed how I'm doing things. And the one thing I taught them was every thought you have is not necessarily your thought. You have demonic entities and people projecting thoughts to you, magnifying things. And sometimes you gotta tear down those thoughts. When the God word say tear down imagination, you have to stop them. Okay? You have to think about things that came to your mind and what your response gonna be. Because in your head, sometimes you just get angry and be hurt about things said or things came to your mind when you saying, oh, they really meant this. And sometimes people don't. I have a way of talking sometimes can be very blunt, very offensive. And I may not mean to say it like that, but when you come from different cultures and even not just my foreign background and my parents' different foreign backgrounds, but even from state to state in the United States or Stati Uniti, you tend to say things that would be considered okay there and offensive somewhere else. And you may not even mean no offense. And people be angry. And sometimes, when you see people say something, you're going to say, well, sorry, did I hurt you or something like that? I didn't mean to. And when they express it, you got to show them that you emphasize with them and that you didn't mean certain things. And sometimes you got to wait till God open up a door so they can hear what you're saying. And you got to allow for their spirit to grow sometimes and mature and learn that certain thoughts and things is projected to you. I can talk about situations where women have babies and they have the blues. And the thoughts come in their mind to bring harm to that child. And it's a spirit. And sometimes people got to step in. That's why it's not okay for single women to give birth and the father's not there, because they can't protect their child against a woman with the blues. And it is a spiritual, mental condition that can happen after they give birth. And when your father is not acting right, and depends how sensitive he is, they can react in the worst kind of way. They don't be themselves. Them demons a lot of times go around the maternity ward. But I'm not going to get deep into that. I'm just going to teach your children not to say anything, because they can create enemies, as well as you speaking to somebody's child. Be careful what you're saying. These little souls out here needs people to speak life into them, needs instruction and guidance. And sometimes you have to praise them and encourage them to communicate a certain way, or thank them for encouraging such a way. I tell people, when you correct children for every negative thing that you may tell them not to do, tell them their strength and their gifts and their beauty. Imparting them that they are worth something. They're not always doing something wrong. But you teach your children to be polite. People don't mind safeguarding someone's child that is sweet or mannerable or respectful. But when your child is going toe-to-toe for a dog, it will ignite other people to be angry and to hate your child and to not want to invest in your child, not safeguard your child. Okay? I had an incident when I was a small child, I'm going to say about 7 or so. And this little boy, he was a twin. I tend to attract twins because technically I am still a twin, triplet, whatever. But he had a twin brother. Named Keith and Kevin. And he used to ride up and down the street, and he was Caucasian. And when I was younger, I was so much lighter in a multiracial, appearance. And the child told me I didn't know what color I was. He rode by, he said, okay, you don't know what you are it. And I looked at him. I didn't say nothing. I didn't understand prejudice. I was not raised around it. I didn't come from it. Yes, my father is a mixed culture with like Hispanic, Italian, Russian. His people had other cultures in from overseas. And, when you're dealing with multiracial things. And I was just sitting there. And the little boy was riding the bike. His twin brother was riding the bike, and he was riding the bike. And he told me I was raised so mixed up, I wasn't even a good N-word. And I looked at him because I didn't know what that word meant. And I said, just leave me alone. And the little boy rode up and down the street and said, you people had no reason to come to this country. I mean, he just went on and on and on and on. And the next day, I didn't pay him no attention. I was just like, why is this little boy? And when I told an adult, they said that's a sign of a young boy. He probably liked me, have a crush on me. And I said, well, that's no way to win my affection. I was a small child. I was like, the stuff he said is mean and crazy, and I don't understand. But the next day, he was riding his bike up and down the street, and he was one of those children that get in the street and ride his bike and all over and harassing people. Why did this car come from nowhere? It was like, going down the street, the speed limit is like 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour. And this boy rode his bike across the street and started riding down the center. This car just went straight about 70, 75 miles per hour, hit that boy. This boy went, I know he flew so high up in the air, it was taller than this tree, a big tree, and came down. And when he hit the ground, the car had stopped and then sped up again and dragged his body. But when he dragged his body, it was like around his neck, and his head was decapitated. And I think the man was following him because he wanted to rush down and get to his parents, but he was drunk. And this boy died instantly. And I tell people sometimes you don't know how many people come from witches or witchcraft or operating those things, play with different demons and entities. But when I seen this happen, it was like God let me know, you watch your mouth. You don't disrespect people. And I remember because I was going to private school, and when I went to school, somebody said something to me, and I called them an applehead, and they made me get on the altar and I had to say like 50 Our Fathers, like 100 Hail Marys, and probably 150 Glory Bees, and pray and ask God for forgiveness. You know, and I didn't understand until that happened why they made me do it. And then what they did, they was like, people start saying, well, they trying to tell you that they can't forgive your sins. When a pope and pastors and stuff ask God to forgive you for your wrongdoing, they can't intercede. But he wasn't telling me that I was going to be forgiven because I did this. He made me deal with consequences as a result of what I did. And he taught me no sin or wrongdoing goes without a penalty or a consequence, however it comes. And he made me check myself. So this video is, be careful of what you say to children or what you allow your children to say. Y'all be blessed. I'm that girl goddess. Like, share, and subscribe. So other people, even young people, you can even have your children sit down and listen to this so they can get a level of understanding. I put out videos to help improve our environment because we live in it. Improve the state of how we live in the disrespect and the disconnect between so many generations towards one another. Y'all be blessed. I'm that girl, guys.